Welcome to Society Insurance's Restaurant Risk Management Series. This module will focus on solid fuel pizza ovens. At the end of this program, you should be able to recognize that solid fuel ovens have operational use standards unique from other commercial cooking appliances, understand the ventilation and makeup air requirements, understand the added fire risk that solid fuel cooking creates, and understand how to mitigate this added fire risk. Solid fuel appliances are most commonly seen in the form of wood-fired pizza ovens. The National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, addresses solid fuel cooking appliances under NFPA 96, the standard for ventilation control and fire protection of commercial cooking operations. The chapter within this standard specific to this type of appliance is Chapter 14, Solid Fuel Cooking Operations. The NFPA puts out consensus standards, meaning they have been developed by technical or professional societies, or by national and international standards. A consensus standard is usually referred to as an industry, national, or international standard, depending on the scope of the organization that establishes and promotes the standard. Many of the NFPA consensus standards are the basis for local building codes. The NFPA is also the basis for most insurance underwriting standards for building fire protection and life safety. Solid fuel cooking appliances have become popular with an ever-growing number of restaurant patrons enjoying the enhanced flavor of food, specifically pizza, being cooked with wood. Whether or not this is true or perceived is left open for debate. However, the unique fire hazards for restaurants that use this fuel for commercial cooking are real and need to be properly controlled. While this module will refer to solid fuel pizza ovens, many of the same control measures apply to any solid fuel cooking appliance. However, it should be noted that cooking foods other than pizza, such as meat, can significantly increase the buildup of grease, thereby increasing the fire risk, so additional precautions may need to be taken. This is why it is important to consult with the authority having jurisdiction prior to installing a solid fuel cooking appliance. This typically includes, but is not limited to, your property insurance carrier, building inspector, and health inspector. Each will have their own set of requirements that may exceed those set forth by the NFPA standard, or may set limits that fall outside of the parameters of the NFPA standard. For example, your insurance company may limit what type of foods can be cooked with wood to help reduce the chance of a fire. NFPA 9614 further requires that makeup air systems shall be interlocked with exhaust air systems and powered if necessary to prevent the space from attaining a negative pressure. Combustion chambers must be inspected weekly for residue that might restrict the vent, start a fire, or cause corrosion. Finally, the exhaust system for solid fuel cooking shall be inspected monthly and cleaned if necessary. While a restaurant owner might be well versed in the controls for regular commercial cooking, there are special precautions needed for cooking with solid fuel materials, the first of which is ventilation. Key elements of NFPA 9614 as they relate to ventilation include keeping exhaust for solid fuel separate from all other appliances, and having a replacement or makeup air system provided to ensure a positive supply of replacement air at all times. If the solid fuel appliance is located under a kitchen exhaust hood, the duct for the appliance is to be separate from all other exhaust hoods. Finally, exhaust for solid fuel shall be separate. The biggest concern with the addition of a solid fuel cooking appliance is the increased fire risk. The type of fire protection necessary is dependent on the size of the firebox within your solid fuel appliance. A solid fuel appliance with a firebox less than or equal to 5 cubic feet must have at minimum a 2A listed water spray or 1.6 gallon K-class fire extinguisher within 20 feet or less of the appliance. A solid fuel appliance with a firebox greater than 5 cubic feet must be provided with a fixed water-supplied hose with an adjustable nozzle capable of producing a medium spray or mist. Solid fuel appliances require their own fuel source and, in most cases, this fuel source is wood. NFPA 9614 has specific requirements for the storage of wood. Solid fuel including wood, when being stored in the same room as the appliance, is not to be stored above any heat-producing device or closer than 3 feet to a solid fuel appliance constructed of metal or to any other appliance that could ignite the fuel. It also shall not be stored in the path of ash removal and shall not exceed a 1-day supply. Be sure to check with your local authority having jurisdiction, as they may require that fuel storage be protected by a sprinkler system or a water pipe system with a hose capable of reaching all areas. You should also check with your insurance agent, as insurance carriers may have their own set of solid fuel storage requirements that might exceed local standards. We all know that in order to have a fire you must have oxygen, fuel, and of course, an ignition source. In order to minimize the risk that comes with what amounts to a small fire inside a building typically full of combustible materials, NFPA 9614 has set forth requirements for the source of ignition. Any type of flammable liquid is not allowed. It can be ignited with matches and approved built-in gas flame, or other approved ignition sources. The matches or any other approved portable ignition source is not to be stored in the vicinity of the appliance. Finally, when adding fuel or adjusting fuel, long-handled tongs are to be used. Unlike typical commercial cooking appliances, where cleaning requirements are limited to the removal of grease and excess food once the unit is shut off, solid fuel cooking appliances produce ash and other fire debris. This must be properly disposed of, or the risk of fire is greatly increased. Ash, cinders, and other fire debris is to be removed from the firebox at least once per day. Special tools are needed so that these items can be removed without having to reach into the chamber. In addition, the ash is to be sprayed with water prior to removal from the firebox to extinguish any hot ash and control dust. The photo on this slide is an example of how not to store the ash and other debris that has been removed from the firebox. The ash must be stored in a heavy metal container or cart with a minimum thickness of 16 gauge. The cart must also have a cover and may not exceed 20 gallons in capacity. Finally, the container should always be covered when it is moved throughout the premises. Solid fuel cooking appliances are a nice feature and another way to attract customers to your business, but they do present a unique exposure that other establishments in the industry do not have to address. As with any exposure, you must have adequate controls in place to minimize your probability of a loss. When it comes to solid fuel cooking, you should ensure the oven is installed per the manufacturer's instructions, ensure there is proper ventilation and makeup air, ensure ash is properly disposed of, ensure there is proper fire protection, ensure there is safe storage of wood or fuel, follow the manufacturer's instructions for operation, and train employees in the safe operation of the equipment. Thank you for taking the time to take part in Society Insurance's Restaurant Risk Management module on solid fuel pizza ovens. Have a great day.